Tech family, this is a video that I've been looking forward to for a long time. Over the past year, I have made numerous videos covering budget laptops which I categorized as costing between $500 to $800 US. Each time I made one of these videos, several people commented that laptops in that range should not be considered budget. Well, those comments really affected me because I started this channel because I wanted to help people. And if you can't afford a laptop in the $500 to $800 price range, you definitely need my help. Whether you are struggling financially or in an overseas location where companies jack up the prices, I wanted to make this video for you. So today, we're going to go on the hunt to find the best laptop that you can buy for under $500 US. And we're going to look at how they stack up with more expensive laptops. Now, most major companies like Dell, Lenovo, etc. have laptops available under $500, but they are severely hampered by low-cost components that make the laptop substantially worse than more expensive devices. Let me go through a couple of common ones. Manufacturers putting in a low brightness, low quality, non-IPS panel, which will make the laptop's display hard to see and also make it challenging to do anything that requires a color accurate screen, like say photo editing. Low amounts of RAM such as 4 GB or in single channel. This will make the laptop run slow for even the most basic tasks like web browsing, or low amounts of storage like 128 GB, which means you really won't be able to store many files on the laptop. Or worse still, a mechanical hard drive, which will definitely make your laptop feel very laggy. When it comes to looking out for you guys, I'm not prepared to accept these kind of compromises. So, over the last couple of months, I've been searching for a sub $500 laptop with a decent Full HD IPS screen, at least 8 GB of RAM in dual channel, an SSD with at least 256 GB of storage, decent build quality, and good customer reviews. That led me to these two devices. The GemiBook 13 by Chinese manufacturer Chuwi, no idea if that's how to pronounce it, but we're going to go with it for this review, and the Gateway 14, which is a brand owned by Acer, but the laptop is manufactured by Chinese company Bemorn Technologies. The GemiBook 13 has some impressive specs. A 2K IPS screen, i.e. resolution above Full HD but not as high as 4K, which should provide for a very crisp viewing experience. 12 GB of RAM, which will be plenty for running any program I can throw at it, and a roomy 256 GB SSD. My only concern about this laptop is the processor it comes with. It's got an Intel Celeron J4115, which is a weak processor. It has 4 cores and only 4 threads, runs at only 1.8 GHz all-core with a single-core max of 2.5. In fact, it's the same processor that is in my Synology network-attached storage. It's the kind of processor that you expect to find in a device like that with limited functionality, not a full-blown laptop. Anyway, we'll see how it performs in a second. The GemiBook 13 is available from AliExpress, link in the description below, and it normally retails for around $360 US. The Gateway 14, on the other hand, has a full-blown i5-1035G1 processor. This is a powerful processor that was launched as part of Intel's 10th gen Ice Lake line at the beginning of 2020. It has 4 cores, 8 threads with a base of 1 GHz and a boost of 3.6. This laptop has a 14-inch Full HD IPS screen, an impressive 16 GB of RAM, and a 256 GB SSD. Very nice specifications for the price of $450 US. By the way, nostalgia, Gateway used to be a very big brand a couple of decades ago. You may remember it from its distinctive marketing, which for some reason centered around cows. Anyway, the brand was since acquired by Acer and it's sold exclusively through Walmart, link in the description below. Now, my original plan was to do this video vlog style and spend a week using nothing but these two laptops making daily updates. But as you're about to find out, things did not end up as I anticipated. Let's hit performance first, as it really couldn't be more different between these two laptops. I was hopeful that the Celeron in the GemiBook would be powerful enough for basic tasks. It was rough, and on Windows everything felt a bit sluggish. Most things I did just felt slow. Even switching between programs had a little lag to it. Simple operations that should have been instantaneous were not. In fact, I often found the CPU was heavily being utilized for basic tasks, which is a result of the CPU just not being fast enough. I keep talking about basic programs like browsing the web, Microsoft Office, and logging onto a corporate environment using Citrix. That's because I did not try any professional programs like video editing or programming, which would have been way too much for this laptop to handle. In fact, in Cinebench R23, this laptop scored the worst score of any laptop I've ever tested by far. The GemiBook's manufacturer does list Adobe's professional suite of applications on their marketing page for the laptop with statements like, "Run smoothly without waiting." This is outright misleading, as this processor would struggle greatly on these applications. Since this laptop was quite slow running Windows, I decided to switch to Ubuntu Linux to see if the laptop performed any better, and it did. By the way, Linux is another operating system like Windows or Mac OS. In fact, Linux is one of the most used operating systems in the world. It runs the majority of servers powering the internet and is also the underlying operating system behind Android. Unlike Windows or Mac OS, Linux is free and open source. There is not one company controlling it and profiting from it. This means it relies on the community to improve it, which can lead to a less polished experience, but one that can be more easily configured and changed than, say, Mac OS, where what you see is what you get. Generally speaking, Linux with a default installation is more lightweight than Windows and therefore easier to run on lower spec hardware, which is why I decided to try it on this laptop. I chose Ubuntu Linux as it is one of the more polished versions and is designed for users like you and I. Overall, I found Ubuntu ran very well on the laptop and I didn't notice slowdowns to the extent that I'd experienced on Windows. And yes, I ran the same programs on Linux like Chrome, Citrix, and similar programs for Office applications. When it comes to the Gateway 14's performance, the i5-1035G1 processor was, as expected, excellent for everyday tasks like browsing the web and writing documents. The processor is powerful enough even if you are learning to code or doing some professional tasks, so long as they don't require a decent GPU, as the integrated GPU in this laptop absolutely sucks. Do not expect to do any sort of video editing or deep learning here. Now, the positive side effect about the GemiBook using such a slow processor is it doesn't require much power at all. In fact, it never used more than 10 watts. Compared to the Gateway 14, which peaked at 35 watts and sustained at 15. This means the GemiBook never gets warm to the touch and you never hear the fan spin up, which is a good thing. It was kind of a similar experience to using Apple's new fanless MacBook Air. The Gateway never got overly warm to the touch either in my use. It is a pretty big laptop though, which tends to be better for heat dissipation. However, the fan would suddenly come on, and when it did, it was very noticeable. On rare occasions, it also sounded like it was loose and rattling, which isn't good at all. Neither of these two laptops are capable of even lightweight gaming, so I'm going to skip talking about that. Both laptops came with weak Wi-Fi 5 chips, which resulted in slow Wi-Fi speeds, although still plenty fast for streaming 4K movies. The SSDs in each of the laptops were the slowest I've ever tested, honestly, bordering on mechanical hard drive speeds. They were that bad. Funnily enough, both laptops came with an easy-to-access expansion bay where you could put a second SSD. However, neither fast NVMe drives I tested worked. My guess is that these expansions only support the slower SATA 3 SSDs. Either way, if you buy one of these, you still may want to try putting a SATA 3 SSD in, because even though they aren't anywhere near as fast as, say, the latest NVMe SSDs, they will still be much faster than the drives that these laptops came with. By the way, on that note, I found both of these laptops impossible to take the back off without breaking them. The Gateway 14 had a screw that wouldn't come out and started to strip as I tried to unscrew it. The GemiBook, even after removing all screws, including one hidden under a sticker, I couldn't open it with my prying toolkit without breaking the laptop. It seems there are some very tight clips holding it together. Alright, let's talk about the display. The GemiBook is marketed as having a great display, and it is very decent. In fact, I'd say exceptional in this price range. I measured the advertised 99% sRGB and 75% of Adobe RGB, which is very good. Also, as mentioned, the high-resolution 2160 by 1440 display makes content look very sharp. Plus, the 3:2 aspect ratio of the display is very useful for word processing, as you can see more text on a page than traditional 13-inch laptops. The one downside is the screen doesn't get that bright. I measured a max of 250 nits. Normally I'd recommend 300 or more, so definitely don't expect to use this laptop outdoors. The Gateway, on the other hand, has a terrible display with less than 250 nits of brightness and only 66% of sRGB color. Its contrast was better than the GemiBook's though, which made its display usable, although its low brightness did mean I had to squint when using it in a brightly lit room. In fact, because both of these displays are very reflective, which you'll see in my B-roll shots, and they both aren't that bright, you might find yourself squinting to use either of them in a brightly lit room. Overall, the GemiBook's display was substantially better and usable in most environments. Oh, and FYI, Neither laptop has a touchscreen, and neither came with any dead pixels, distracting backlight bleed, or used PWM flickering to lower the brightness, which is good. When it comes to the feel of the laptop, the gateway was big and heavy with large bezels. I did like the option of different colors, which is cool, but my blue model showed fingerprints very easily. The GemiBook, on the other hand, was substantially more compact, much lighter, and looked more modern with its smaller bezels. Here are the weights of both devices, and now the total carry weight of both devices. Note, the gateway supports USB-C charging as well as the included barrel pin charger, which is handy. The GemiBook does not, which is really annoying. Even though its charger is quite small and light, it's such a compact portable laptop that having USB-C would have been really handy because I could just use any USB-C charger that was around and make the laptop even more portable. Both laptops are very sturdy without screen flex or much flex of any kind, which is good. Neither laptops could be opened with one hand, but that doesn't really bother me too much. Both keyboards are not the best. The gateway feels big, but the keys are uncomfortable to type on, quickly bottoming out. The GemiBook is also not great. You have to press harder than normal for the keys to register, and it just feels pretty cheap. The trackpad of the gateway was very smooth and my fingers easily glided over it, which is good. However, the click was uncomfortable and required a lot of pressure. Also, there seemed to be a double click when clicking in the back center of the trackpad, kind of like the broken Dell XPS 15 trackpads from earlier in 2020. The GemiBook was a little less comfortable to glide my finger over, but the press felt sturdier. Overall, I gotta be honest, these aren't the most comfortable keyboards and trackpads to use. They feel very cheap. However, they are usable. By the way, the Gateway 14 has a fingerprint reader in the trackpad that worked well. The GemiBook looked like it had one in the power button, but it didn't. The sound was absolutely horrendous on the Gateway. The worst sound I'd ever heard in a laptop. The quality was abysmal and it lacked volume. In fact, it sounded like only the left speaker was working. But when I listened closely, the right speaker was working but had substantially less volume, even though it should have been the same volume coming from both. This is not a computer that I can even recommend for watching Netflix on. The GemiBook was better as it has a better sound stage, but the quality was also very rough. It often sounded like something was rattling when the volume was at max. Now, at this point, I started to realize that these laptops were substantially worse than those in the price range above, and gave up on my original idea of using nothing but these two for a week, as I was personally losing productivity. So, here are a couple more observations and then I'll wrap up with who should buy these and what some other options are in this price range. On the Gateway 14, I tried to switch the function keys from the secondary function, but found that the BIOS was locked down. I couldn't change anything in there. I was also unable to switch the function keys on the GemiBook. And talking of negatives with the Gateway 14, I had great trouble using an external monitor. When I plugged my monitor in via DisplayPort over USB-C, I was only able to get 30Hz refresh rate on my 4K display, which is awful. And when I tried HDMI, my 4K monitor only recognized as 1080, and there was nothing I could do to change it. All in all, the Gateway was not usable with an external 4K display. The GemiBook performed much better here. No problems running my 4K monitor at 60Hz when plugged in via DisplayPort over USB-C. A couple more miscellaneous things. The GemiBook did come with an English version of Windows, which is great. My Redmi Book 16, which was also shipped from China, didn't, and I had to buy a Windows license key. One other thing about the GemiBook that I found quite odd is it was quite hard to turn on the power. It rarely came on straight away, and I found myself having to press the power button quite hard and maybe a couple of times for it to register. And something I liked about the Gateway 14 was the inclusion of a cow-themed background, pretty nostalgic to that brand. Lastly, the warranty. As mentioned, the GemiBook was shipped from China. It appears they do offer support internationally, but I don't know how convenient it is. At least with the Gateway 14, it's sold by Walmart, so people in the USA can get its service within the warranty period pretty easily. Sorry, I don't know about those internationals. When it came to battery life, I did not do extensive testing. However, here's what I observed. The Gateway gets around 4 to 5 hours in normal use with its 51 watt-hour battery. I would have expected far more given how dim the screen is and also only the Full HD resolution. The GemiBook has a much smaller 38 watt-hour battery and it only lasted around 3 to 4 hours, which is really bad. Neither laptop throttled the CPU's performance though on battery. Okay, so let's wrap up. I was really hopeful that I'd found you viable laptops under $500 US. I gotta be honest, I was disappointed. In fact, as I mentioned, my original plan was to use nothing but these two laptops for a week. I just couldn't. They were just too big a step back from the price range above. On that note, budget shoppers, what this video has proved is you should not be distracted by specs. They can be very deceiving. A good laptop is a sum of its parts. You don't want 12 or 16 gig of RAM in a laptop as cheap as these. Heck, look at the new MacBook Air. It's amazingly powerful with only 8 gig of RAM and would run circles around these laptops, even though this one has 16. These kind of specs are designed to make people feel like it's a good deal, when in reality, that extra money should be invested in making other parts of the laptop better, like putting a faster processor in the GemiBook. So here's my advice. If you are shopping around the price of the Gateway 14 at $450 US, try to save an extra $50 to get a laptop from the price range above on sale. For example, the Asus ZenBook 14 sometimes goes on sale for $500. It is so much better than this laptop. The display is much better. The keyboard is better. It's substantially more powerful. And yes, on paper, it has less RAM, but it runs circles around this laptop. It certainly has issues, like almost all cheap laptops do, but it is much better than the Gateway. I'll post my review of that in the description below. Also, some other good laptops that could be discounted into the sub $500 price range include the IdeaPad 5 15 or 14 with AMD or Intel. Even the IdeaPad 5 Flex 14 or the Asus Swift 3 are much better than this one. However, if you're a casual user just browsing the web, watching movies and writing emails in this price range, you should strongly consider looking at an iPad or even a Samsung tablet. Look for one on sale with a decent keyboard for it. These are all round a high quality device for what you are doing. They offer an improved user experience, a much better screen, better battery life, better sound, and have powerful enough components for what you're going to be doing on them. You may even want to consider a Chromebook. However, I personally haven't tested any of the recent ones, so you're on your own there. Now, if you definitely cannot afford the laptops I mentioned earlier, and you do want to run a variety of programs for a price well below $500 US, the GemiBook has a case to be made for it. It's very cheap, it's more comfortable to use than the Gateway because it's far lighter in weight, never gets hot or loud, and has a decent screen. And if you have the guts and patience to run Linux on it, you'll eke out as much performance as you can from that Celeron CPU. I'd also pay very close attention to future iterations of this laptop. If they put a slightly more powerful processor in it and improve the keyboard and sound quality, it would be a very good device in the price range. Lastly, another option to consider is of course buying a second-hand laptop. For example, I've seen a couple of Surface Laptop 2s available in this price range on eBay. They would be a much better option than either of these two laptops, but you do of course run a risk when buying second-hand, but it's worth considering. Anyway, that's all for today, folks. If you like this video, you know what to do. Smash that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up and the notification bell. I would certainly appreciate it. Plus, my Instagram and Twitter is below for more behind the scenes coverage. Till next time, I will catch you later.